welcome back to my epic quest to review every Sonic the Hedgehog game that I can get my hands on, in order. And of course, that brings us to Sonic 2 for the Sega Master. Yeah, is that joke getting old yet?
That's no good.
I mentioned in my previous review, Sonic 2 for the Game Gear, that the 8-bit Sonic 2 was developed for the Sega Master, then ported to the Game Gear. So, if I'm reviewing all of these games in order, why did I review the Game Gear version first? Well, unless you lived in Europe or South America in 1992, you didn't get to play it on the Master System. That's right, Sonic 2 for the Master was never released in the US. So, most Americans only ever got to experience the Game Gear version. So, let's jump right in and see how this one holds up. Right off the bat, you'll probably notice all this new extra screen real estate. Much improved over the claustrophobic Game Gear screen. It definitely makes navigating levels and avoiding obstacles a bit easier. Speaking of easier, I couldn't help but shake the feeling that this version was overall easier than the handheld version. And I'm not just talking about the bigger viewing area. Since this is essentially the same game as the Game Gear version, I had some memory and expectation of how to beat each level. Because of that, I found myself preparing for some hazards that didn't appear. And one of the biggest differences I noticed was in the first level boss. On the Game Gear, the ball that comes down the slope will bounce at different heights and speeds. But on the Master, it is consistently one speed and height, every time. This means that not only did they restrict the viewing area when porting over to the Game Gear, the developers actively made the game harder. That's not to say that the Master version is an easy game. Even with the bigger viewing area, there's still a lot of blind jumps that require trial and error and level memorization. This section sure as hell ain't any easier. There's also the same floaty controls, some cheap hazard placement, questionable edge detection, and inconsistent boss hit detection.
He's blinking! That means I hit him! Why am I dead?
There's also some pretty morbid level design, like the tube sections in the Scrambled Egg Zone. And this. What sick mind came up with this scenario? Well, now that I got all that out of my system, let's talk about the good stuff. First of all, the opening scene follows the story in the book better than the Game Gear version, showing Robotnik already running away with Tails and Sonic trying to catch him, since, you know, Tails was kidnapped before the game started. As expected, the visuals are bright and colorful, which you can appreciate even more with all this extra screen real estate. It's still impressive how smoothly and fast this game runs. Of course, the footage I captured is from the Wii Virtual Console, which is technically emulated, but I'm pretty sure they also emulate the hardware limitations as well. While the controls are a little floaty and the platform edge detection can be a little dodgy at times, the game never really becomes unwieldy. It just takes some getting used to, especially for someone that has played the Genesis games as much as I have. This game even has a couple of features that can't be found anywhere else, like the ability to skip along the top of the water with enough speed, and I'm pretty sure this is the only stage in a 2D Sonic that is finished from right to left. What else can I really say about this game that I didn't already say in my Game Gear review? The music is still great, very upbeat and catchy, and fits each level well. The bosses are also pretty cool. Each one has a different pattern, and can be a little cheap at times, but it's interesting that you don't actually fight Robotnik. That's pretty rare for a Sonic game. The final boss is even the first appearance of Metal Sonic. At least I think that's what that thing is. There are some things notably absent from this game compared to the previous games. One is the shield power-up is nowhere to be found, and the second is there's no special stage at all. Like the first 8-bit Sonic, the emeralds are scattered around the actual levels, only this time they're much more well hidden because I couldn't find a damn one of them. Finding all the emeralds gets you an extra set of stages and an actual fight with Robotnik at the end, as well as the good ending. A lot of people nowadays might pass this up as a cheap port of the Genesis Sonic 2, but it's definitely its own self-contained adventure and worth checking out. So far, the only way to play this version of the game is either to import it for your Master System or on the Wii Virtual Console. I couldn't get all the emeralds to save Tails, but Robotnik is like one of those Saturday morning cartoon villains where they never actually hurt anyone. Right? Oh. I'm so sorry, little buddy. I guess we'll never see him again.